You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
Oh yeah, baby, that's lovely.
Good morning, it's February the 12th, and welcome to Psychedelics Cannabis Educational News, live here at paceradio.net. Good morning, Rev Kelly. How you doing?
Oh, good morning. I was like, February 12th. It's already like the middle of February, Al.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, Valentine's
I've been
Day
away
on
for a couple
Wednesday,
of weeks.
like
It's
2
nice
days
to be
away.
back here. Yeah, it was January the last time we spoke. So I'm
Yes,
like, oh yeah, it
yes,
is February now. It is.
It is
Nice to be
February.
back. Happy Monday.
Yes, happy Monday. Happy Monday. Let's hope our skies are happy for us today.
It's a little bit overcast, but that's okay.
I
We're going to
know.
roll with it anyway. It's still nice for the middle of February, right? We could be in a treacherous winter storm by now. So
Oh,
I'll take it.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know, January, February, we're used to minus 20, not minus 2.
Yes. Spring is here. It came early.
I saw some people post, can I put my snowblower away yet?
Right. Should I take the snow tires off? But the ones that take the snow tires on jinx it for the ones that don't. So nobody's taking off their snow tires, or you're coming
That's
to me.
right. That's right. Better wait.
That's right.
We got some more snow. We haven't had a lot of snow, but we still got some more in the
It's
forecast. It's coming. Talking about coming, we got some news. What do you say we get started?
Let's do it.
All right. First story up comes to us from cannabis.net, and the headline on it says DEA to reschedule cannabis in 6 weeks, 2 years for the upcoming election. The Weed Rumor Mill Swirls with anticipation.
Jeez Louise. Yeah. For over 6 months, the cannabis industry has been eagerly anticipating developments with bated breath. We have been sitting here waiting for it. The anticipation began in August when it was revealed that the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services had formally proposed relocating cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, marking potentially the most significant reform in cannabis regulation since prohibition in 1970.
However, since this revelation, there has been a notable lack of communication from the DEA regarding their timeline for action, potential announcement dates, or avenues for further engagement by stakeholders. Even attempts by members of Congress to advocate for full legalization over mere reclassification to Schedule 3 were rebuffed by the DEA last month.
Right. So the absence of clarity has left many within the industry wondering what to anticipate and when they might receive concrete updates from the DEA. So let's talk about the anticipated DEA announcement, insights, and speculations.
Well, they say the anticipation may soon come to an end, as indicated by an industry insider who has been advocating the Biden administration for months regarding this matter. Who are the big winners if cannabis is moved to a Schedule 3 drug?
Well, Adam Goers, the co-chair of the Coalition for Cannabis Scheduling Reform, expressed, if it were to happen tomorrow or sometime in March, I would not be surprised. He emphasized the expectation that if the DEA were to diverge from the FDA's recommendation, there would be likely a derivative to revisit the issue. Now, the sentiments align with what has been conveyed by the administration. So we could see it. We could see it this quarter, Al. They're saying.
Let's see what happens. Several sources speaking on background or anonymously due to the sensitivity of the process shared similar views. One source told Green Market Report that DEA announcement is imminent. Another indicated that the discussion with multiple U.S. senators implied that the move to Schedule 3 is seen as a done deal. Additionally, there's speculation that the Biden administration prefers a DEA announcement during February, coinciding with Black History Month.
They're getting us all hyped up here. We're like, okay. However, certainty remains elusive. As Goers pointed out, the DEA is not known for leaking information given its nature as a law enforcement agency. I know they just want us to sit and wait.
Yeah, exactly. Nevertheless, signs suggest a shift to Schedule 3 in the near future, according to Gores. He remarked, "We have certainly been told that the process is moving quickly towards completion, but we also don't have specific intelligence that it's going to come out on a certain day."
Yeah, it's essential to note that the rescheduling process may not conclude swiftly. The duration of the process remains one of the significant uncertainties moving forward. So let's talk about the influence and timeline uncertainties now.
The initial step involves the DEA issuing a proposed new rescheduling rule and initiating a 60-day public comment period. Adam Gores acknowledged that this period opens the door for potential legal challenges from cannabis opponents seeking to maintain prohibition. Ideally, rescheduling could be completed within 90 days of a DEA announcement, although this remains uncertain.
So part of the reason for the uncertainty is timing, according to various sources, is that the Biden administration is likely urging the DEA to announce the decision sooner rather than later. This approach increases the likelihood of completing the rescheduling before the November election, making it more difficult for a potential Republican successor to reverse if Biden loses. It also allows Biden to campaign on cannabis reform during his expected rematch against former President Donald Trump. So they're using that maybe as one of the issues, one of the back and
Yeah,
forth. Is Trump against it? Is he against the descheduling or rescheduling?
I haven't seen him say anything lately.
Interesting.
Which way he's sitting on that.
Wow. This is
Um,
going to get very edge of
I
our seat kind of stuff over the next few
yeah,
months, isn't it?
yeah. Well, some people thought he might have legalized it on his last term because he's all
Right.
pro-business, but nothing happened, right?
Let's see.
So Gores noted the Biden re-election campaign is looking at these issues as well, and from the informal polling side, and testing how they're going to speak about this. While the campaign doesn't make decisions, it's significant that it has been highlighting the president's efforts on this front and testing messaging related to cannabis reform for months.
Mm. Speculation suggests that the administration would also like Biden to announce the rescheduling news during the State of the Union speech scheduled for March 7th. Oh my goodness, that's just in a few weeks.
Three
So we could
weeks,
hear something about it then. Okay,
maybe,
I'm getting really
maybe.
excited, Al.
However,
No, no.
Gores emphasized that the process is underway. I don't think there's anything that concerns us outside of getting it done quite literally. All the tools are there. The will is there. It's my job to be worried about the little things, but we're confident this is going to move forward.
Okay. So
Let's
let's
see.
prepare for the potential outcomes here. As the cannabis industry eagerly anticipates the DEA's imminent announcement, stakeholders are actively preparing for a range of potential outcomes. With the possibility of cannabis classification transitioning from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3, businesses are assessing how this change might affect their operations, market dynamics, and compliance obligations.
Stakeholders are proactively crafting contingency plans to ensure flexibility in response to evolving regulatory conditions. These plans involve adjusting product offerings, refining distribution strategies, enhancing market approaches, and strengthening compliance protocols. Though carefully planning and preparation, stakeholders aim to navigate potential disruptions and capitalize on emerging opportunities.
Additionally, stakeholders remain engaged in monitoring legislative developments and collaborating with advocacy groups to advance their interests in the decision-making process. By staying informed about policy shifts and actively participating in advocacy efforts, stakeholders seek to influence regulatory outcomes and protect their business interests. Everything's going to change. And as soon as
Yeah.
this becomes 1 to 3, they have to prepare for that. That's going to change everything in this country.
Yeah, I think it's going to make
Big time.
big changes. Let's hope it's all positive changes
Yeah.
and doesn't lead them down maybe an alley that no one really
Right.
wants to go. Because I understand there's
Right.
benefits to Schedule 3, and there's some things that aren't as good. So
Well, they should just deschedule it altogether. But we're not
correct,
even having that
correct.
conversation, are we?
Yeah, that just solves the whole problem, doesn't
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
All right, on to the next story, and just bringing it up here. And where did that go? There we go. All right. Next story. It comes to us from the Guardian. It says, Wonder Drug. Is the UK ready for the green rush of medicinal cannabis?
Yes. Yes, they are. You might not
Yes.
quite have noticed, but Britain is in the midst of a cannabis revolution. This one plant, its proponents say, has the potential to reshape modern medicine. It's happening quickly and quietly, with scientists and doctors ushering in a new era of high tech flower power. As of today, over 60 countries have legalized some form of medical cannabis since November 2018. That's also been the case in Britain. Some 30,000 of us have already been prescribed cannabis for conditions ranging from arthritis to epilepsy, anxiety to multiple sclerosis. Experts predict the list will soon grow longer, and specialist surgeries are springing up nationwide to cater for ever growing demand.
At Curaleaf Clinic on London's Harley Street, I met Chris Cowan. He's 47. He was 13 when he first smoked cannabis, one joint with friends, illicit and casual, in early 90s rural Warwickshire. It would be 9 years before a doctor would diagnose him with clinical depression and many more until his PTSD would be identified. Medicinal cannabis was decades from legalization, and yet, as far back as then, he knew intuitively its effect on him was more than hit of a recreational high. While friends would be giggling and rolling around intoxicated, he says, I found a calm I've never felt before. That's the only way I can describe it. The older I got, the more I noticed cannabis was medicinal, alleviating the traumas in both my body and mind. Only 30 years later would the British medical and legal system catch up.
Right, of course. In the meantime, Cowan illegally self medicated like 1.8 million others across the UK. There were the practical issues, he says. The efficacy of what I would buy from street dealers was hit and miss. The product was totally inconsistent and unregulated. The illegal market is a wild west, rife with contamination. Authorized cannabis medicines, however, are tightly regulated. Worse for Cowan was the stigma. Into my 30s and 40s, none of my contemporaries still used it. I felt ashamed of my reliance on what I was told was harmful, illegal substance. My wife hated me breaking the law. It was a constant source of tension. Twice he tried antidepressants, neither time able to cope with the side effects of the sertraline.
Yeah, it sounds good. In the UK, there has been oops, no relaxing of rules for recreational cannabis. The change is purely medicinal. Cowan receives his prescription, much like any other, appointments with specialist doctors, regular checkups, medical grade, heavily regulated products with strict guidelines for consumption. Medicinal cannabis comes in many forms: oils, creams, cartridges, and capsules. Some people, like Cowan, are prescribed the dry flower, which he vaporizes. The prescription process is stringent. Those referred need to have an existing diagnosis and to have already tried other conventional medical interventions. Before this, Cowan says, as an adult, I'd have to sit in a yard waiting for some kid to turn up in a bike, then drive home paranoid that the police would pull me over just for accessing medication. When I found this clinic, I went from being criminalized to a normal member of society.
My goodness. Wow. We almost
Yeah,
forget sometimes, and just
yeah,
take appreciation for being in a country where we don't have to deal with that.
yeah.
There are more than 200 CCTV cameras across Caledon's 100,000 square foot state of the art cannabis growing facility, sky high fencing, airlock doors, and number plate recognition. To visit, an NDA must be signed to ensure no details emerge of its top secret location. Its vast gray buildings have no exterior signage or branding, ensuring anonymity. And the only slight giveaway, as the company's co-founder Paul Allen accepts, is the stench of cannabis wafting out across an otherwise unassumingly gray industrial estate. A high-tech filtration system is due to be installed imminently, of course.
Oh, they don't have a filtration system. Wow, no wonder it's floating across the sky.
Right.
Yeah. Celadon was set up in 2018 by Alan and two business partners after they read about medicinal cannabis. Theirs was one of the first firms in the UK to grant a cannabis growing license. So far, 20 euros or 20 million euros has been invested on top of the 30 million value on their site. They're betting on big returns. Market experts estimate the global medical cannabis industry generated $682 billion US in 2020, a number expected to reach $53.8 billion by 2030.
Wow.
At full capacity, this facility will provide medicine for 50,000 patients. That's roughly 9 tons of cannabis produced a year. We took down our first commercial harvest late last year, he says. Everything we are currently growing is contracted to a private clinic. Longer term, we're looking to develop and produce new medicines. Well,
and keep it as medicine, let's hope.
keep it as medicine, because
Keep it as medicine.
That money trail always sounds nice, but as we're seeing here in Canada, a lot of it's going down in flames.
Yes, well, certainly it is the big ones. You want to keep reading a little bit longer? I'll read 2 more paragraphs. The long,
yeah,
long,
2 more paragraphs. Yeah, we'll just finish off this section.
Beyond these secure doors is the growing space, cavernous rooms connected by a maze of concrete corridors. Plants and cuttings are moved from room to room with their life cycle, each stage monitored to maximize quality and efficiency, nutrients, oxygen levels, humidity, light exposure. Caledon hopes to produce up to 6 harvests a year through 9-week cycles of flower growth, donning full-body scrubs. I'm shown the current crop of mammoth cannabis plants growing under fluorescent lights and futuristic surroundings. All our plants are QR coded through their lifetime, Alan says. Everything is logged. There's a full audit trail. This helps ensure the occasional bud can't go missing, but it's also for research purposes. As insights into medical cannabis develops, this data will help us identify which individual plants and compounds are most suited to treating different health conditions. The possibilities seem endless. I'm confused for a second here. You put a QR code on every bud?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? To ensure the occasional bud can't go missing. I was like, what?
No. Yeah. I just want to mention here that access to medicine derived from cannabis remains highly restricted there in England.
It does.
And is limited to people with specific rare and severe forms of epilepsy, adults with vomiting, nausea caused by chemo, those with certain MS symptoms. Private practice, however, have a far-ranging scope. So there are some conditions, and it's really restricted as far as the access into things.
Yeah.
And we're always reading about people, kids with epilepsy, seizures and stuff that are going without medicine from in the UK, and it just doesn't make sense.
No, something needs to change.
They got a program, allow them to use it.
Yeah. Yes.
All right, here we go. On to the next headline. StratCan says that over $200 million is owed in cannabis excise duty.
It is. It's crazy. It's crazy what's happening with this. Since legalization, Canada's cannabis industry has delivered substantial revenue to the federal government, as well as to the provinces and to the territories.
This income comes from a variety of sources, but by far the most significant contributor is the excise tax, with the exception of Manitoba. The provinces and the territories receive 75% of excise revenue, and the federal government gets 25%.
The numbers have become substantial, with this money mostly going into general revenue with no specific earmark for policing, health, or municipalities. And the numbers also reveal the extent of economic pain within the industry, because the CRA is owed over $200 million in excise duty, $200 million in tax that people they can't just pay. They can't pay that. How can you pay that?
Can't pay it. And that's what I mean about from the last story. They're talking about all this money making, and now we're into a story where they're talking about losses.
There we go.
In taxes, right? They said they have a table here that represents the amount of federal government has collected annually from cannabis duties since legalization. Look at that. $504 million.
Yeah. So they've only collected what, 562.
Well,
they can't get it to them.
Yeah, look at the numbers. How the numbers going, like, that's going backwards. The numbers have increased every year.
Yep.
Yeah. These amounts reflect the CRA's administration of cannabis duty and information returns provided by the licensed cultivators, producers, and packagers of cannabis and or cannabis products on behalf of the federal, provincial, and territory governments.
The information specific to producers is not available. As such, the figures include all revenues administered by the CRA. The government has yet to collect a staggering amount of money in excise duty.
Yeah, Sylvia Branch, a CRA spokesperson, says that as of March the 31st, 2023, the total amount of receivable for cannabis duties is $221,238,299. This outstanding balance represents funds owed to the CRA and is not broken by federal, provincial, and territorial components.
But that was March 31st, 2023. That was a year ago. That
Year
was owed.
ago.
How much
Yeah.
is owed since then?
Yeah, we're
Right?
11
That's a
months
year
since
ago.
then.
Right? Upon announcing legalization, the government of Canada committed close to 46 million over a 5-year period to cannabis public education and awareness, and up to $274 million for law enforcement, border detection, and deterring drug impaired driving. Oh, good.
However, the federal government is not following a policy wherein cannabis excise revenue is allocated explicitly to cannabis-related issues regarding public health or law enforcement.
Yeah, there's no cannabis excise account, says Caroline Fagans, a spokesperson with the Department of Finance. All federal revenues, including those from cannabis taxation, are deposited in the Consolidated Revenue Fund. Now, funds from the CRF are used for the disbursement of all Government of Canada expenditures, investments, and transfers. The Government of Canada doesn't, in actual practice, earmark any of its revenues, including those from taxation, for disbursement towards specific activities or initiatives. So no slush fund, no going back into social equity programs, no going back into the community. Just put it into the government's pot.
Well, I consider the CRF the slush fund. Whatever, you just throw the money in there and they'll just use it for whatever
they'll just use it for whatever they want.
Yeah.
Not specific.
Yeah. Health Canada tells a similar story. The ministry charges for application screening, security clearances, and import-export permits, as well as annual registry fee, which covers not only activities covered by Health Canada, but also the Canadian Border Services Agency, the Public Health Agency of Canada, and the Public Safety Canada, to support the objectives of the Cannabis Act with respect to legislation and regulations of cannabis.
However, despite the naming of requirements for specific agencies, all revenues collected through cannabis fees are deposited into the CRF and don't go directly to Health Canada or any other agency.
Wow. Health Canada has collected a total of $220 million in fee revenue since legalization, says Tammy Jarbo, a spokesperson for Health Canada. Of the $220.4 million, the sales of goods and services rights and privileges fee made up $200.8 million of total revenues collected, and the services of regulatory nature's fees made up $19.6 million of total revenue collected.
Figures differ from the annual Public Accounts of Canada reports, since the annual Health Canada fees reports are based only on cash collected and not only invoiced account amounts. Overall revenue from fees covers a portion of eligible program costs, which in 2022-23 represented 49%. Unsurprisingly, the remaining regulatory program costs are paid through general revenue.
Yep. A similar scenario is playing out with regard to how the provinces and territories allocate the cannabis revenues, with the Ontario cannabis sales driving significant revenue. For example, the Ontario Cannabis Store first the payment of $150 million to the provincial government, CRF, was made on September the 27th, which we reported here on the Pace News.
saying
We
this
all
will
went,
be
what?
reflected in its financial statements for the year 2023-24 and in public accounts of Ontario when published later in 2024. That's from Mike Hajamsi, Senior Communications Advisor with the OCS. The government directed a process for OCS to make regular dividend payments based on the agency's net income going forward. So don't they owe a whole bunch of money?
The OCS?
Yeah.
Well, they're the most profitable company in all of Canada when it comes to
But didn't we do
cannabis.
an article like
And
that they were
yes,
paying their money?
correct.
They just had a whole
They
bunch.
hadn't been paying anything, exactly, and that's where I commented that we covered that story on September the 27th because of the fact that we were surprised as well that they were just
Yeah.
all collecting this money and none of it was going to the Ontario
Not paid.
government. Like they were part of the Ontario government, agencies, but they were keeping it to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. There we go. All right, we're gonna continue on with our next story. I'm gonna shut that one down. And that's just $200 million on the excise.
A lot of money. A lot of money owed, but they can't pay it. Stores are going to lose their shirts. They're already closing, right? LPs are losing their shirts. Well, the big ones are anyway, the big ones. So they can't pay the excise tax.
The big ones. Yeah. Yeah, and if the big ones are all gone, what happens to the little guys? Because the little guys got to be able to sell the products to the big guys in order to get it to market.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go on to our next story. And the headline on this says, how antidepressants, ketamine, and psychedelic drugs may make brains more flexible. And this comes to us from the Psych Post.
Okay. The first-line pharmacological treatment for major depressive disorders are antidepressant drugs known as selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. But a significant proportion of people don't respond to these drugs.
Given their major depression is a global mental health problem that is on the increase, it is important to find novel pharmacological treatments for those who do not respond to the current ones. But to do that, we need to understand exactly how the drugs work, which we currently don't.
So MDD is a debilitating and distressing mental health disorder, trapping sufferers in a rigid and negative state of mind. There's even evidence suggesting that this lack of flexibility is associated with cognitive changes, including negative thoughts and biases, and problems with learning and memory.
In our new study published in Molecule Psychiatry, we show that an SSRI called acetylphenone may actually make brains more plastic, meaning more flexible and adaptive, more able to facilitate communication between neurons. Brain plasticity is simply the ability of neural circuits to change through growth and reorganization. Learning involves more brain plasticity, including changes in neural circuits, and can help people to recover from depression.
Okay, that's very interesting. One novel treatment option for depression approved by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is, I'm not even going to try it, ketamine, something to do with the ketamine. Yeah, it's made from ketamine, although it has not as yet been approved for the use by the NHS. The psychedelic drug LSD and psilocybin are also being investigated for treatment-resistant depression in research studies, but are not yet approved by regulatory bodies. When these studies are conducted, there is a careful monitoring by a medical professional to ensure participant safety.
We know that both SSRIs and psychedelics target the same brain receptor known as 5-HT-2A. By contrast, S-ketamine, similar to ketamine, works on a different receptor and affects the brain chemical glutamate.
Interesting. Very interesting. So, how do SSRIs and
Mhm.
psychedelics work to reduce symptoms of depression? At present, we don't have the full picture, but the 5-HT2A receptor is linked to the brain chemical serotonin, increasing levels of it in that brain. And a recent study has indeed showed that serotonin appears to be reduced in people with depression. Okay.
SSRIs, however, also affect the neurotransmitters GABA and glutamate. The latter has been linked to learning, cognition, and memory, suggesting SSRIs may actually help to restore cognitive function, although the exact mechanism of psychedelics are not yet fully understood. Their antidepressant effects seem to work in a similar way to SSRIs, given their effects on the 5-HT receptors. However, there are also other reactions to psychedelics, such as hallucinations.
Sure, sure. So it will get you off your antidepressants, but you might start seeing Jesus or something like that, or an alien. That's okay, as long as you know you're breaking it out. Do you want to keep going on this? I know that we're hitting
Uh,
10:30.
we'll
It's a
just
wonderful
yeah,
article. It's really smart.
yeah. I got. I'm looking at the time there. We'll have to shut her down. We're getting a
But
little
wow, to
long.
hear that there could be a replacement. Again, more research is being done with LSD
Right.
and psychedelics and helping with these depression factors. We did one on veterans last week or 2 weeks ago
Yes.
talking about that. So every week that we find this out more
Yeah.
and studies
Yeah.
being
And you know
done.
what? Yeah. Last story before we go to break, and this one comes to us from Cannabis.net. Headline says, "Sure, I can drive stoned just fine." Almost 40% of Gen Z say driving high on cannabis is no problem.
Let's hear about that. It's the Gen Zers, and that they can say they can drive stoned just fine, and they say thank you very much.
Many of Colorado's teenage drivers think they can drive safely while high on cannabis, according to a new poll by the state's Department of Transportation.
The CDOT research, which was released on Monday, February 5th, is based on a survey of 1,000 persons conducted in 2023. It shows that the residents in the Gen Z cohort, which includes those in the ages of 16 to 24, are more likely than the typical Colorado driver to consume cannabis and to drive while impaired.
According to the report, 20% of the drivers in the Gen Z group admitted to driving within 2 hours of consuming cannabis at least once in the past month, compared to 7% among older age groups. Additionally, the report highlights that 37% of Gen Z respondents believe they can safely operate a vehicle after consuming cannabis.
Sam Cole, a traffic safety manager with CDOT, expressed concern over these findings, stating that's alarming to us, and it's perhaps a wake up call for us to double down on our efforts to reach out to young cannabis consumers.
Further elaborating, Cole pointed out that analysis of statewide law enforcement data reveals that 62.5% of Gen Z drivers who were arrested for driving under the influence tested positive for cannabis in their system.
2023 Colorado Springs police reported 22 cases of driving under the influence of drugs attributing to cannabis, marking the lowest number recorded since 2015 and the year following the legalization of cannabis in Colorado.
22 would probably almost be a weekend, wouldn't it, if it was
Right,
alcohol?
right.
Yeah. Cole reported young drivers in their late teens and 20s are generally the most hazardous on our roads. They are less likely to wear seatbelts, more prone to use their phones while driving, and more inclined to driving under the influence of various substances.
Okay. Well, in its response to such trends, that the state plans to launch a new initiative in April, complementing existing campaigns against impaired driving. Cole explaining the new campaign named Meet the Effects, which aims to educate about the various impairments caused by cannabis on driving abilities. This includes distorted perception of time, distance, and speed, as well as a compromised ability to maintain divided attention while driving.
Under Colorado law, drivers found with not 5 nanograms or more of THC in the system can face prosecution for DUID, and that's what it is here in Canada too.
Yeah.
I'm just shutting that story down as we watch our
Yep.
time. And that's what it is here in Canada. 5 nanograms. There's no scientific proof behind that. That's just an arbitrary number, really.
It's so
I don't know
silly.
any proof behind it. And technically, almost probably every medical person in Canada would be over that 5 nanograms every
Sure.
morning.
It's very silly. It's a very silly number. Everybody's system is different. So,
Yeah.
well, that's interesting. That was a very interesting article to read about the youth there.
Yeah. Okay, break time. Time to medicate. Kelly and I will be right back after our medical session. You're watching Psychedelics and Cannabis Educational News here at paceradio.net. You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20 is so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partner 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420 enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyndonega Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Let's share Pace everywhere. That way it can help create peace. People everywhere advocating cannabis education.
Are you looking to get your medical cannabis grow license? Limestone City Hydroponics can help patients through the process of obtaining their license to grow medical cannabis. What's that? You don't have a doctor. If you meet the medical criteria, Limestone City Hydroponics has a nurse practitioner who can assess and provide medical cannabis prescriptions. What are you waiting for? Contact Limestone City Hydroponics at limestonecityhydroponics.ca or call them at 613-548-0420.
Camelford Lifestyle Shop. Open Monday to Friday from 10 till 7 p.m. or by chance. Check out our flags, our t-shirts, plus our hats, and look of that supply of rolling papers, plus much more. We've got bongs and your favorite herbal vaporizers. Look at all the incense we have, as well as for those who collect knives, check out these knives in our collection. And while you're here, stop in to see Shay at the piercing room, where you can get poked by Shay. Daily deals, check them out. Camelford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Camelford, Ontario.
Pace Radio is the people advocating cannabis education radio network.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420. We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.
Sure.
Little hiccups in the system there, but we're back. We're live. And we've got 5 more stories, but I don't know if we got enough time for them. And one question before we bring them in. You going to the Global Marijuana March?
Yes, in May, absolutely. Second weekend in May, right? Is that right? The
First weekend.
First weekend in May. First Sunday.
Correct.
In May. Right.
First for Saturday in May.
Or Saturday in May. I knew it was one of them there, but we'll be
May
there
4th.
for sure.
You'll be there.
I've been told that I'm setting up Kelly's Green Lounge at this one in May, so we may see a little Kelly's Green Lounge pop up.
That's what I've heard.
Yeah. You've heard it. I haven't even confirmed it, but there's a big I'll be there. You've heard it here first.
I have some friends.
That's so cool.
All right. On to our first story from after the break. This one comes to us from CannabisNews.org. Headline says Navy adapts to high times, introduces the THC Waiver and Enhancements to recruit training program.
What a win here. The U.S. Navy has implemented a new policy at its boot camp at Recruit Training Command in Great Lakes, Illinois, where recruits tested positive for THC, the primary intoxicating substance, of course. It will not be automatically discharged. Rear Admiral James Waters, who is the head of Navy's Military Personnel Plans and Policy Division, shared this update with reporters, highlighting an expanded waiver process for recruits who test positive for cannabis on their initial screening.
Waters emphasized the importance of evaluating each individual case to ensure that no other issues are present, while expressing confidence in the boot camp's ability to integrate recruits into the Navy's culture. This approach is partially in response to the changing legal status with cannabis across various states, aiming to align military policy more closely with societal norms. However, Waters was clear that this leniency does not extend to other drugs, reinforcing the military's zero substance on stance on drug use.
Sure. The policies among several initiatives the Navy has introduced to lower the attrition rate during boot camp, which currently stands at about 10%, marking a historic low. These efforts are part of a broader strategy to address the ongoing recruiting challenges facing all military branches of retraining more recruits through the initial training phase and beyond. So they're not getting a lot of people to sign up, I guess, and they're not qualifying enough because of
the
drug
cannabis
tests, maybe? Is that what it's saying?
Yeah. We need to allow that to go in so our numbers can go up. Vice Admiral Rick Cheeseman noted that the conversion rate from recruiter appointments to enlistment remains low, with mentorship from individuals with Navy experience proving beneficial in improving these numbers. The goal is to minimize losses during the transition from civilian to sailor, especially as the Navy aims to meet its ambitious recruiting targets.
Okay. The introduction of a pre-boot camp physical training course inspired by the Army has also contributed positively, adding approximately 400 sailors to the ranks. This program not only prepares recruits physically, but also helps reduce anxiety and improve readiness for the challenges of boot camp.
Rear Admiral Waters expressed a desire to further decrease the dropout rate, indicating the ongoing efforts to enhance the effectiveness of boot camp training and support the new recruits. The Navy's adjustments to training and recruitment practices reflect a commitment to evolving with societal changes while maintaining the high standards and readiness of its force. There you go. Good to see that drop. Allow more recruits to come in, because there's lots of good people out there that could be participating, and it's silly to stop them because of cannabis use.
Because of cannabis use, and if it's their medicine, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
All
right, on to our next headline. This one comes to us from CBC. The headline says, as losses continue, Aurora Cannabis buys Australian medical pot firm.
Let's find out. They bolstered their international presence this past Thursday with a deal to buy the 90% of Australian medical cannabis company MedLeaf Australia it didn't already own. No, it owns 100%.
Yeah. The deal valued the Australian medical cannabis distribution company, formerly known as Indica Industries Pty Limited, at about $45 million. Aurora, an Edmonton-based cannabis company, paid $8.5 million in cash with the balance of common shares issued.
So the MedRelief has done just a superb job building this business, and we collectively thought this was the right time to make the next step. That comes from Aurora Chief Executive Miguel Martin on Thursday with analysts.
The deal, which came the same day as Aurora, reported a third quarter net loss of $25.5 million, builds on a relationship between Aurora has had with MedRelief Australia since 2017.
Have they ever not reported a loss? The Australian
Well,
Medical
yeah.
Cannabis
When has there ever been a profit report?
I've never heard of them anyway. I don't know why they're spending more money. The Australian medical cannabis market is clinician led and uses a traditional pharma product distribution model. That's from Aurora.
Yeah. Let's see. Having excellence in Canada, which is such a critical federal legal system, cannabis markets allow you to learn and become adept at navigating other federal legal cannabis markets. So you get experience here. You can use that experience in other places.
Yeah, it says the expansion into international markets has been well worth Aurora's time. Usually the top 5 companies will account for 2/3 of 3/4 of the overall business in these European markets, whereas in Canada, it might make you 20 or 30 companies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. All we're seeing is people go down.
Yeah, the big ones. Can't Trust,
Yeah.
Canopy, Buy Aurora. It's got to happen sometime soon.
Canopy's getting pretty close from the reports I've read.
Bye-bye.
All right. On to our next story of the day. This one comes to us from Yahoo. Headline says, "So running sober versus high, how weed affects your workout."
Yeah, people smoke cannabis for a variety of reasons, including for pleasure and to unwind. Now, new research has found another benefit. Getting high can make exercise more enjoyable. Yes.
Whoever thought? They always said that stoners were lazy people. The study included more than 36 runners who were experienced cannabis users. When they smoked or vaped cannabis before exercising on a treadmill, they enjoyed the running experience more, with a greater sense of that euphoric runner's high compared with when they ran sober.
The notion of weed smokers as exercisers defies stereotypes. Many people associate cannabis use with laziness and a lack of motivation, but past research has suggested that many frequent users of cannabis also happen to be people who frequently exercise.
Angela D. Bryan, a professor of psychology and neuroscience at the University of Colorado in Boulder, said her team initially began studying the issue because they wanted to understand how the legalization of cannabis would affect public health. At the time, they theorized that legalization would worsen the obesity epidemic in the United States.
Yeah.
Wow.
Nope. Initial research suggests cannabis users might be more active than expected. The team gathered information using surveys of cannabis users and found that many of those who responded believe cannabis motivated them to be more physically active, and that not only increased their enjoyment while working out, it also enhanced their recovery. Yes, it does.
Yeah. Now, Brian went on to say, the idea that there's something that we could add for people to help them enjoy their physical activity more is actually pretty important from a public health perspective. The more people enjoy a physical activity, the more likely that they'll do it again.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to conduct this study, the researchers recruited 52 people between the ages of 21 and 39 who lived in and around Boulder, Colorado. Runners were eligible to participate in the study if they had already used cannabis while running multiple times in the past, with no negative effects. And the final report included 42 runners who attended all of the appointments.
They attended to all of them. Each participant ran in the lab to establish their baseline pace. Then they ran for 30 minutes sober and came back another day to run for 30 minutes after using cannabis. Some runners used cannabis with higher levels of THC, while others used a type of more with CBD.
The use of flower cannabis, either smoking or vaporizing cannabis, was associated with finding exercise more enjoyable, with reporting a more positive mood state during exercise and also experiencing more runner's high symptoms, says Laurel Gibson, the lead author of the study and researchers at CU Change Laboratory at the University of Colorado Boulder. So things like euphoria, relaxation during exercise.
Now, on the day of the high run, the researchers drove a van to the participants who smoked or vaped the cannabis in their homes, taking in however much they normally would before a run. Then the researchers collected a blood sample, weighed the remaining amount of cannabis, and drove the participants to the lab.
That's so interesting. Josiah Hesse, a journalist who lives in Denver and author of Runner's High, a book on the use of cannabis in distance running and other sports, was one of the first people to pilot the study in Boulder. Hesse says participating in a study was vastly different experience than his typical runs along the scenic trails around Denver. For the research, he ran on a treadmill in front of the wall of mirrors while researchers periodically asked questions such as, "How are you feeling right now? How difficult does the exercise feel? How much enjoyment are you feeling? And how much pain are you feeling?"
I was enjoying myself despite the somewhat surreal circumstances, he says. The runners of the study reported experiencing more of a runner's high after using either type of cannabis. So there we go.
Yeah. It's very good to see.
Getting
Runner's
people,
High. I like the name of his book.
as I said. Yes, yeah, exactly.
That's good.
And you know, it shows that people, you know, aren't they question it. You know, we've always been accused of being lazy stoners.
Lazy stoner. What
Yeah.
did they say in
You know,
one
I
of the
go-
articles we
I
read?
go
I think it called it lazy shaming.
Yeah.
Lazy shaming, Al.
Shaming. Yeah, I'd say so because I know I go out. I don't run or jog, but I go out for walks, take the dog for a walk, which is exercise, which you know
certainly,
we're told to
long
get.
walks.
And I smoke joints all the time when I go.
Yeah. It helps.
Yeah,
It helps so much.
it sure does.
I do it to yoga.
Yeah, I could see running.
I would never
I
consume.
could see
I
running.
would never do yoga without consuming first. I don't know anybody that would. That the cannabis
Yeah.
users. It makes everything better. Come on.
Come on, running in front of a mirror though has to be boring. All right, on to
I
our
know,
next
it would be.
story. This one comes to us from the Marijuana Moment. Headline on it says Congressman demands answers from the DEA on marijuana rescheduling review. So let's see what this fellow says about it.
He's one of the co-chairs of the Congressional Cannabis Caucus, and he sent a letter to the head of the Drug Enforcement Administration on Thursday, urging the agency to release more information about its ongoing review of cannabis scheduling status under the Federal Controlled Substance Act, including what its planned deadline is for finishing and whether it will take into account the fact that many states have already legalized cannabis.
Clear and proactive communication is critical as this formal scheduling review moves forward, Rep. Earl Baumauer wrote to the DEA Administrator Ann Milligan. The correspondence comes in response to a recent assertion from the DEA that it has final authority on the rescheduling decision, which itself was a reply to a separate letter from Baumauer and 30 other bipartisan lawmakers. I say that lawmaker didn't like being told that they didn't have an option on this law.
Since news first leaked of the Department of Health and Human Services recommendation that cannabis be moved to Schedule 3 of the Controlled Substance Act, advocates have worked to uncover more details about the review. Last month, facing numerous public records requests as well as the least one lawsuit for the matter, health officials finally released more than 250 pages of medical review and other related documents.
It's still unclear when DEA will act. However, in comments this week, to Marijuana Moment, a Biden administration official dismissed rumors that rescheduling would come this week. Maybe it's going to be 3 weeks. Maybe it'll be 6 weeks, right?
Letter talks about. Go ahead.
Yeah, maybe it'll be 3 weeks or 6 weeks, according to the other story.
According to the other story, we don't know. And then it talks
Yeah,
here
the first
that
story we did.
Letter, it's asking
Yeah,
for
go
the
keep going,
deadlines and requesting. It just talks about his letter a little bit and what he's requesting. But Blumauer's been the sort of that guy that's been pushing for this in the U.S. for all that time, right? So I'm not surprised to see that he put forth a letter.
Yeah, exactly. Because they're trying to set the law, and things aren't going the way that anybody wants. And maybe at some point, it will happen. Maybe.
Yeah. Any step forward is progress. They need a banking act. I mean, maybe if they deschedule it to 3 or move it to 3 or whatever, then they'll get some banks. Come on.
The banking act, a banking act has passed one of the locations, either the House or the Senate, many times, and it passed so many times they had to change the name of it. Went from safe to safer.
Yeah, safe to safer. I think it was 6 times most recently, just passed and passed and
Yeah.
passed. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they do that, then it will affect us here because we still lose our PayPal accounts. We still lose our Eventbrites or anything that, has committed or connection to the US. We lose them because it's cannabis, right? So they need to do something down there. And hopefully this will prompt the progress forward.
Yeah. Keep fingers crossed. All right. On to our last story of the day. Headline there says OPP closes 7 illegal storefronts in Southern Ontario and seizes $600,000 worth of cannabis. And this comes to us from CP24.
Yeah, and they're all over different cities. It's an OPP investigation. It's illicit cannabis. It caused the closure of 7 illegal storefronts, seizing $600,000 in illicit cannabis, including edibles and vape pens, in addition to some psilocybin.
An OPP-led provincial joint forces cannabis enforcement team executed 9 search warrants in Barrie, St. Catharines, Vaughan, Toronto, and Brampton, including a residence in Toronto and a suspect's vehicle.
In their investigation, police say that 7 businesses were forced to shut their doors as they were not authorized to sell cannabis or cannabis products by the Alcohol and Gaming Commission of Ontario.
There you go, some stuff. The stores include Bayview Bongs in Barrie, St. Paul Smoke Shop in St. Catharines, Farmers Link in Vaughan, the Planet 60, Kingston Chronic, and Lawrence Smoke Shop in Toronto, and B Cloud Cannabis in Brampton. I see the one in Vaughan because they've opted out there.
Yeah. Persons with interest in any of the locations who wish to enter these premises may apply to the Superior Court of Justice to get permission under Section 18 of the CCA. Anyone who enters the building and that is subject to interim closure may be arrested and charged with break and enter under this. So they're basically saying, don't come back. We've closed your doors. Don't come back.
Don't reopen. Don't reopen. Not in this location. So they say, according to the investigation, police seized 63 kilograms of dried cannabis, 901 packages of cannabis edibles, over 500 THC vape pens, 214 grams of butane hash oil, 436 grams of hash, about 300 packages of psilocybin, and cell phones and some cash. Brass knuckles. They don't.
Brass knuckles. Unidentified individuals were arrested and charged. They're going to appear in court later on. So this store here, these stores, they weren't sovereign. They weren't indigenous. They were just like flying under the radar for as long as they could get it. And they must have all been connected somehow if they knew to go to each city and pick one out. So,
Vaughan, like I said, they've opted out. So I could see why somebody would try to operate a store there. Yeah.
But that was it. Now everybody in Vaughan has to go outside of Vaughan to get
Vaughan. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Wow.
Anything before we go? Before we shut things down?
Doobies for sleeping bags, March 2nd, 374 Water Street at the food shop. Come and get your doobies and give us your sleeping bags for the vulnerable population in our area.
There you go. Good cause. From the Legacy420.com news desk, that's our Pace News Report for February the 12th. Thanks for our buds at Camelford Lifestyle Shop, Legacy420.com, and LimestoneCityHydroponics.ca. In closing, we'd like to say thank you for watching. Plus, don't forget to educate, medicate, and do not incarcerate.
You're listening to the Pace Radio Network here at paceradio.net.
The opinions of the individuals during this broadcast are their own and may not be the opinions of their group or other organizations they may be involved with. All medical advice during our broadcast is not a medical opinion and should be checked with your medical physician.
When you have a pain that's reached its peak, Legacy for 20, it's so unique. If organic cannabis is what you seek, here's your trusted partners 7 days a week. Suppository salves, vapes and drops, topicals, edibles, infused pop. Just when life seems like it ain't easy, at Legacy 420, enjoy a pop freezy. Lab tested products, make them the GOAT. Legacy 420 out on your road. Legacy 420 in Tyendinaga Mohawk territory. Indigenous organic cannabis at its finest.
Enjoy the buzz of legalization with Campbellford Lifestyle Shop. From lights to plant nutrients, books, consumption accessories, and more, we've got all your basics to grow or consume cannabis. Visit our info center or take a look at our piercing services and body jewelry, now available in-store through Campbellford Lifestyle Shop, 17 Bridge Street West, Campbellford.
Limestone City Hydroponics is Kingston, Ontario's hydroponics shop. Take your growing to the next level and create the optimal environment with a tent kit, or maximize your yield with an ebb and flow flood table kit. Either way, Limestone City Hydroponics has more sizes and options to fit your needs. Are you looking for the power of the sun that adapts to your budget? Then look no further, as they have professional grow lighting. They have indoor grow systems that are easy and cost effective, with many options to fit your living space and lifestyle. Cultivate your growing potential. We have everything you need to succeed. And if you can't make it to the store, they offer local delivery to the greater Kingston area. Remember, when you're looking for experts to help you grow, then look no further than the locally owned Limestone City Hydroponics, 105 Sunderland Drive in Kingston, Ontario. Call them at 613-548-0420.
We are people advocating cannabis education here at paceradio.net.